Well, welcome to tonight's stream. Let's see if we can turn this down a teeny bit. All right, so I've had a couple of issues here with the internet, and yeah, I've had to switch over to my mobile hotspot, so hopefully we don't drop out. But yeah, anyways, welcome everyone to the stream. Tonight we're going to be doing a little bit of a credential gathering techniques thing, which I'm hoping to then release as a standalone video, but also we're going to be starting the editorial live machine, hack the box machine. So we'll do that all completely live and unprepared, but the credential gathering techniques thing is something that I thought was really interesting from one of the hack the box machines, that I'd like to kind of walk through and explain and kind of show what we can do there. So, but yeah, thanks for jumping over to this one instead of the last one. I'm sorry for the mix up and all of that, but welcome Marielle, Chris, Lady the Killer, and Nigel to the stream. It's really great to see you all. So I guess we shall get started. Let me just log into this. Alrighty, so we have So if you're wondering, this is the machine that I'm going to be using to showcase credential gathering techniques, and I find it really helpful. There was some really interesting stuff in there. Yeah, that went through. Great. Can you guys hear me clearly and fine? All right, so let me get started. Cool. Alrighty. Well, let's see if this is fine. I'll hide that. Cool. All right. So, have you ever had this situation happen? You get put into a pen test and you're told it's an internal and you aren't given any credentials. Your first thinking is, okay, what environment am I on? If you're in an Active Directory environment, you're thinking through how do users use this environment? How do they function within this environment? You're thinking about the enterprise and the users that are there. And this video, I want to focus in on some of the techniques that you can use to gather credentials, to harvest credentials in unlikely and possibly likely places that users may save or misconfigure different technologies, different situations, and that we as pen testers, as hackers, can take advantage of to then highlight the vulnerabilities and move ourselves into initial access on a system. So in this video, I'm going to be showcasing the escape box, the the initial foothold of the escape box, because this has 3 very interesting approaches to credential gathering that I think would be really helpful for us to understand and for us to learn, I guess, together. So yeah, so that's what we're going to be doing. If I share my screen, we are in my virtual machine here. We're in my virtual machine and we're going to do a typical Nmap scan. So we're doing a scan of 10, 10, 11, 202. We want to do verbose, scan all ports, and then an aggressive scan. We also want to do a minimum rate of 5,000. Now on an internal pen test, we wouldn't actually do this because we don't want to bring things down and we don't want, and we'll cut that out. So we know that this is a Windows box by a few things. So we have port 53 open, 139, 135. We also have 1443, which is a Microsoft SQL server. We have LDAP with 389 and 5985 is WinRM. So now that we've discovered all the open ports on this machine, we're going to be looking at the services that are running on each of those ports. Taking its time. This is taking quite a bit longer than I thought it would. I ran through this yesterday and it wasn't taking as long. It may be because I'm hotspotting from my phone, which means it's just taking a little bit longer for everything to run. Oh, right. So now that our Nmap scan is done, we can start looking through our results. So first of all, we will see a couple of things. We have a DNS server, we have Kerberos running, so we know that this is some sort of server within an Active Directory environment. We also have Microsoft Windows Active Directory LDAP. And we can see that the domain is sql.hdb. We also can see that from the LDAP certificate, we have dc.sql.hdb, which is the machine that we are scanning. And we can also see, as I said before, 1433 is Microsoft SQL Server 2019. We also have down here the 5985, which is Windows Remote Management server, and then a whole bunch of RPC ports, which is a typical thing to see when you have Windows Remote Management running here. So with 96% confidence, this is a Microsoft Windows 2019 server running SQL, Microsoft SQL. So we also know that, so if we go back up here, we will note that we have 445. And it's always important to note this, because what we want to do with port 445 is check for SMB. So I will switch over to this pane and we will do a simple SMB client -10.10.11.202-L, which is to list. And here we're hoping to see if they are we're hoping to see if we have a null session available so that we can log in and have a view of what the share is. So it's going to ask me for authentication. We're just going to go enter. And we have our shares. So we have an admin share, C drive, IPC, netlogon, and a different share here called public, and your typical sysvol. So we know that this is most likely a domain controller from sysvol, IPC, and netlogon, but the public share is what we are interested in, because this is an open share that we may be able to see and read. We could check with netexec SMB 10.10.11.202 shares. Obviously that doesn't work because we don't have any credentials at this time. But if we did, we could, I guess we could potentially do a -u -p. There we go. All right, I need to go say goodnight to my son, and I'll be back in just a second. Don't go anywhere. And we're back. All right, so where were we? Ah, yes, failing with netexec. Yeah, so for some reason it doesn't run, but that doesn't matter. So we can go back to SMB client here. And what we'll do is we will log in to public. and this should let us in. It's taking a long. There we go. All right. So we can list help to see all the commands with SMB client. But basically we have our typical commands like in any Linux, Unix thing. So we can use ls, and that should give us a list of directories and files. And the first thing that we see is SQL Server Procedures PDF. So what we'll do is we'll copy that. What we'll do is we will use the get command. We'll need to put it in quotes because it's got spaces, and we'll download that file. Again, this is taking a long time. Now, we will have a look here. Alright, so what we'll do is we'll use Firefox to open up SQL Server, and we have our SQL Server procedures here. So what we'll need to do is make sure we read through this to make sure that we don't have anything that we're missing. So since last year we've got quite a few accidents with accidents with our SQL servers. Looking at you, Ryan, with your instance on the DC, why should you even put a mock instance on the DC? So Tom decided it was a good idea to write a basic procedure on how to access and then test any changes to the database. Of course, none of this will be done on the live server. We cloned the DC mockup to a dedicated server. Tom will remove the instance from the DC as soon as he comes back from his vacation. The second reason behind this document is to work like a guide when no senior can be available for all juniors. So then it goes through some, authentication stuff, accessing from domain join machine, accessing from non-domain join machine, what you need to do. So we know that we have a Ryan user, a Brandon user, and a Tom user. And then as we scroll down, we find bonus for new hired and those that are still waiting for their users to be created and perms assigned can sneak a peek at the database with user public user and password guest user can't write 1. Refer to the previous guidelines and make sure to switch to Windows authentications to SQL Server authentication. So what they're talking about here, well, firstly, we have some credentials exposed on this document. So problem number 1 is the fact that we can access the SMB server here without credentials. That's problem number 1. Problem number 2 is staff are now saving credentials within documents like PDFs that are on these open shares that if you're on the network, you can access, which means that anyone within this organization can access this. That's a big problem. We don't want that within our organizations, but for us as pen testers, for us as hackers, this is great. So now we have some credentials. We can then use that for more initial access. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this notepad here and we will put our public user and guest user can't write 1. Alright, so we have our password and our username here. So we'll keep that to the side there. Alright, so now that we've got that, we'll close this out. We will try to see what kind of access we have. Exec SMB 10.10.11.202.202-u public user -p There you go, and so we'll give this a go and see what NetExec comes up with. Nothing. I have a feeling that my instance of NetExec is broken. Not quite sure why it's not working. Okay, so here we go. So obviously this comes through, the public user comes through as a guest because any kind of user would come out through as a guest. I guess that's what we would do here. And we'll go shares. Let's see if that works. So for some reason, I'm not sure why sudo wasn't working. Does anyone in the chat know why that may be? Interesting. All right, so let's clear that. What we'll do now is with our user, we will, because this user is for the SQL server, and we know we have a SQL server, we can go MS SQL and we'll run that. And what NetExec does, it will attempt to authenticate using the provided credentials, and then from there we may be able to use the modules. So it didn't work in this case, but the way that MS SQL works is that it has a Windows auth and a SQL Server auth. The difference between the two is that basically that Windows Auth relies on the actual Windows authentication protocols and the way that Windows handles authentications, whereas the SQL Server Auth is handled by the SQL database within MS SQL. So that's basically the difference. In this case, we'll need to set local auth and see whether it gives us a different kind of access compared to it. All right, so we have a successful logon here. So we know that it's a local authentication because it's going to the DC, and it's worked because of this plus symbol. All right, so now what we can do is we will clear that screen, and we can use Impacket's MS SQL client. We'll specify the username : and then the password, and then the IP address or the host name if you've added it to your Etsy host files. So I'll do that. And now we have a shell on here. We can type in help to get our, these aren't MS SQL, these are ones that are native to Impacket's MS SQL client. And we can use these to do different things. It kind of shortens the things you need to do in order to figure out like how to perform certain attacks or certain actions on the database. So we want to do a couple of things first. We want to, let me just pull up my MS SQL notes. So we want to first verify is my user account like a sysadmin, and we want to know what other user accounts exist with here. So we'll use the built-in enum underscore users, and this should return who the users are. And so we have our login name, the SA, which is our default SQL admin. We have guest, information schema, and sys. So there isn't much here that we can go off because these are just like standard user accounts for Microsoft SQL. What we can then have a look at is there's two functions that we could do. So either we can get a shell using MS SQL using the XP command shell command, or we can use XP directory to perform a network authentication and point it to ourselves. So what we'll do is we'll try this one because we want to know if we can do that, and then we'll try this second one. So if we go XP command shell, and then we'll just do a simple who am I? Oh. And it usually helps if you spell it correctly. Alright, so the execute permission was denied. So we'll need to have a look and see if we can enable it. So what we'll need to do is we can do a execute sp configure show advanced options 1. And we figured out that we don't actually have permissions to run this. So if we did have permissions to run this, we could potentially reconfigure the server to allow us to run XP command shell, because sometimes our user is allowed to run it, but it's not actually enabled. So that's the difference. In this case, we can't. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to try to do the XP dir tree. And then what we can specify is just any address, and what we'll do is we'll just point it at itself, and it worked. So because that worked, we can then specify this, and it didn't get the things that we wanted, but what we can do is we can go back to this window, We'll exit out of SMB client and we'll fire up responder. On the interface ×0 because I'm connected to the VPN, and we'll run that. So when that's running, we will go back here. What we'll want to do is we want to enter in the IP address 14.40/ please subscribe, and we'll run that. And as we can see in this pane, we captured the hash. So that's a cool, like, I found that a really nifty trick, because you could potentially, like, we have a very low privileged user, we perform this attack, we get the password hash, and we could do a bunch of, like, a couple of things here, but the main one would be to take this offline and crack it, which is what we're going to do. So I will go over to here. Let's put this, what was the name of that user? That was SQL Service. The name of the user was SQL Service. All right. So do that. SQL Service hash. We'll paste that in there. And we'll go #cat -m, and it's 5600 SQL Server hash, and we'll crack it with RockU because most Hack the Box machines use RockU. Now that will take a little bit to run depending on your machine and the specs. Is to again use netexec to perform like a password check. I'm not sure why the SMB module isn't working for me, and I don't know whether it's because like SMB isn't very strong on this machine, or if it's not supporting like user authentication. It's meant to be open. Oh, so we have it here. So there's a connection error. All right, so what we'll do is we'll try MS SQL. All right, so we have the ability to log in with MS SQL there, but we want more, right? Like we want to actually get some remote access on this machine. That would be really great. So we'll use WinRM because we noticed that we had that 5985 open, and we have our typical pwned. What this means in netexec is that when you get pwned, you have administrator privileges within that protocol. So we can now log into the system using evil WinRM. Alright, so we've got evil WinRM -I with the IP address, the username, and the password. Hey everyone, thanks for joining. I'm just in the middle of explaining a couple of techniques on hunting credentials. So we've gathered credentials from an open SMP share, which has given us very low level access to a Microsoft SQL server. Then we were able to get that server to authenticate to us, and we captured the password hash for the SQL service account, and then we cracked that, and now we've logged in using WinRM, using Evil WinRM to the server. So from here we can see who, I don't have that on the right place. Who am I? And we can see that we're the SQL service user. Now the final technique that I kind of want to go over is searching within logs, because we know from experience that people enter in passwords wrong, and sometimes they get flustered. And so logs usually capture a lot of that kind of information, and so we can kind of find out where stuff is and what may be of value from logs. Since this user is a service account, it could potentially be overprivileged, and so we may be able to access certain logs, especially if the logs pertain to the Microsoft SQL server. In that case, we may be able to gather some credentials from there. So we want to see what's in the root, and we have our typical perf logs, program files, public users, Windows, and our SQL server. So what we want to do is we want to go into our SQL server, have a look what's in there, and we have a logs file. So we'll go into there, and we'll have a look at what's in there. And we have error log.back. What we can do to kind of speed up, because usually these things are pretty big, is we can run a get child command. So get child item dash path, and we want to look here. We want to recurse and look in files, and then we want to select and what do we want to select? We want to select string dash pattern, and the thing we want to look for is password. That's what we want to see. Alright, so we'll run that, and this will go and look in this folder for any kind of strings that match the pattern of password. And we find a couple of lines where things may help us out. So we see a logon failed for user Ryan Cooper, and then we see the logon failed again, but they've entered in this random string, nuclear mosquito 3. So we know that there isn't a user called nuclear mosquito, but it could be potentially that this user has entered their password wrong, or clicked enter without entering a password wrong, and then not realize that it's tried to authenticate, and then they've typed in their password and clicked enter again, and so then it's been logged here. In this case, we're able to then use this. So what we want to do is we want to copy this, and we have Ryan.Cooper and nuclear mosquito 3. So we want to check if this is legitimate or not. So we'll do the typical net exec, SMB 10.10.11 202-U Ryan.Cooper-P, and then nuclear mosquito. And we have a successful login here. So they are a legitimate account that we can then use. So we've seen three things. We've seen that we're able to find credentials in open shares and public files, and that's a really bad place to store them. We've also seen that MS SQL supports a functionality that allows you to authenticate the server to something else, which means that we can capture the hash there, and that can be disabled. And then thirdly, we're able to look through logs and find credentials in logs. Those are three ways that we can use on internal penetration tests, or when we're doing hack the box machines, that can help us to leverage, like gain a foothold, move around, move laterally. And I think that these are really cool. So to round it out, we shall try WinRM again and see if we got auth, and we do. So we have a pwned there. So we will evil WinRM Ryan Cooper. We will go to his desktop, and we'll see the user flag there. So if you want to have a try of these techniques in your own time, I would encourage you to have a look at the escape box from Hack the Box. It is a really great machine to look at these techniques and to have a play around with that. So, but yeah, that is how we can find credentials on an internal or on Hack the Box. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share it with a friend, share it with someone else if you thought that the techniques were helpful. Let us know in the comments if you have other credential gathering techniques that weren't covered in this video. I know that there are plenty more, but let us know, help us out. Let's work together to build a better methodology so that then we can secure the people that we are pen testing and helping out, improving their security. We will see you in the next one. Alright guys, well, that was a bit fun. Sorry about the weirdness today with the whole stream. I had internet issues and it's just been a little bit stressful getting it all set up. Let me know if that kind of video is helpful. It's great to have like live feedback. But yeah, let me know, because I would like to make more things like that, but I'm not sure whether there is appetite for that kind of thing, whether people find it helpful or interesting, or not. Well, I guess what we're going to do now is move on to do some live hacking. So tonight I want to look at editorial. Now I've got about 40 minutes left. I really need to get to bed early. I've been exhausted and hammered, work, life, kids, everything. And yeah, so I'm only going to probably give this about 40 minutes of a try. We're going to be doing this machine editorial. So if you want to hack along, you can. Let me just share that in the chat. Thank you, Lady the Killer. It was really nice to hear that you're finding value. Thanks, Fer. Really appreciate it. All right, so let's start this machine up. And as usual, like, this is completely live. I have not prepared. I haven't even read the machine info, so I don't actually know what kind of vulnerabilities exist. This is a Linux easy machine. So we'll see how we go. It's currently spawning. Yeah, so if we get stuck, we will look at a write-up, but that's after, you know, we can't really go anywhere forward with it, so we will give it a red hot go, as they say. Alright, so while that is spawning, let me just... Okay, so we have our IP address. Open. I need to get my machine notes. All right, so editorial P is that. It's an easy machine. It is a Linux box. We are on Hack the Box, and that's it so far. All right. All right, so we'll copy that over. Go back to our Kelly. Let's shut these. The box. We'll make a directory called editorial. Let's make that a bit smaller. All right, so that's about it. So what we'll do is we'll start off with our nmat. And I think that didn't copy over correctly, so we'll try that again. There we go. All right, so we'll do dash p dash dash a for aggressive scan, min rate 5,000, and that's it. So we'll run that. We've already discovered that it's port 22 and port 80 are open. Alright, so that was pretty quick. So I'm guessing it probably doesn't have that much open. Yeah, so we only have port 22 and port 80. What I'm going to do is we're going to have to rerun that scan because no, that's Vim. Flick. Trying to talk and do stuff at the same time is difficult. The host name is, what's it called? Editorial. So we want to add that to our eti file. So do that, editorial.html. Cool. And so we'll run it again because we want to see if we can pick up some more, because it will perform, like an Nmap will perform more of its like scripted scans and discovery. While that's running, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start fuffing and seeing if we can find any information that we may need. So we use seclist, user share seclists, or is it an ops? Yep. Discovery web directory. Do that. And it's going all funky because of the size. I don't like that. Let's do that. All right, so we have an about page, an upload. I hate that. Alright, so do we get any other interesting information out of this scan? I don't think so. No, so it's just that. So we have editorial tiempo arriba. So editorial tiempo arriba is there. So we will add that to our network scan information, if that works. Put that in there. Cool, so we have port 22, SSH, and HTTP tutorial.html. Alright, so now what we'll do is we'll go back to our scan, and because this is all funky, so we've got an about page, and that I'll need to create, no, that's not the one, another workspace on another page just for ease of use. HTTP editorial.html. So, are you full of emotions? You're full of emotions, thoughts, and ideas, all on a simple white page. I have always imagined the paradise will be a kind of library. Okay, so these are the books. So these don't go anywhere. Publish with us. We have an upload. Oh, interesting. We'll reach your book. Let us read and explore your idea. Soon we'll have a thing. Interesting. All right, so we know that this is in 2023. We have an upload, a preview, cover URL, which is interesting. We could potentially have an SSRF vulnerability here. So we can SSRF there potentially. We have an upload vulnerability here potentially. We could have any kind of thing here. So I don't know, blind XSS, cross-site scripting in these things, but we'll just keep looking. Search doesn't really have anything. That's there. About. We have a submissions. That's tiempo arriba, HTB. So we could potentially look at that as well. Nothing else at this stage. I mean, we might want to look at some subdomains, but what I also want to see is we'll need to start up my proxy, because I want to start seeing like the requests that are being made to the server. So what I'll do is I will go back home. We'll open this in a container, and we might be able to get some more information. So we have, it's an Nginx server, which is what we found from the, what's the thing called? The Nmap scan. We'll have a look at this, because there might be something out there who knows, that might be helpful for us. So it might be not helpful. All right, so let's just click around. So we have, where are we? Upload. If there's anything interesting here. I mean, it's probably worthwhile giving this a go, this thing. So let's try that out. So, because I don't think we'll get anything else. Oh, and that's finished. So what we can do is we can do Python server and point it at us. So HTTP 10.10.14.40 / please subscribe. Press preview, and we have that there. Oh, and we do get a callback. So there could be potential SSRF there. We are coercing the server to make a request on our behalf when we ask for it to preview that, which is interesting theme. It does make me wonder. So if we did that to a port 81, that didn't work. So let's have a look at the thing. So upload cover. We send through the book URL in a post request. It gets sent to this. So if I went and let's duplicate that. Let's add that there. It's not on the server. All right. So then that. What's this? So it makes 2 requests? No. Or is this the no image kind of thing? Ah, yeah, so that's the image of that. So if we, let's say we downloaded, this is fine. Oh, this is fine meme. This is one of my favorite memes forever. So what we'll do is we will open imaging in tab and we'll save as. We'll go into editorial, save that there. And what was that thing called? Edit images.jpg. So we'll go this images.jpg and we'll preview. Oh, because I'm not in the right directory. So it was city HB editorial. All right. Start that up again. We'll go back. We'll do that. And preview. All right, so we did get our image there. That's reflected back at us. That's okay, Lady the Killer. That's totally fine. It should be at the bottom of the YouTube page, but if you just go straight to my YouTube page, then you can subscribe there or follow me there. All right, so that is uploaded there. We could potentially get a shell using this application octet stream. What does that mean for us? Interesting. All right, I have like lots of different thoughts. So if we called our book, this is a fine book. Because you're great. Test, test. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And we shall send the book info. Request submitted. All right, so now what we can do is we can check this. So this is the thing. So how does it know what your cover is? Or do you just upload it? So if I did that, does it appear somewhere else? I'm not quite sure. I mean, I guess we can just put some of these in here. On error equals fetch HTTP 10.10.14.40/images .jpg. I mean, I don't have to do that, but I want to. And we will do images. What we'll do is I'll put that name about publisher email at test.com and then number. Okay, so that doesn't work there. Cool, so that worked. Sending that. Cool. All right, let's see if we get any callbacks. Our music died. I think, if anything, it's probably going to be this thing that we can change. So we can add a book file, or we can do a book URL, which then puts it here. So if I visit this, is that going to still be there? No. Or is that JPEG? No. So if we've got any hits, I don't think we have. We're allowed payloads, all right? Because that's the other thing, right? That I didn't enter in the right. I've got the right IP address. Can it take? Okay, so we have here book cover, image URL, post request. So this is for the upload cover thing. So let me just, I haven't taken any screenshots of this, so let me just do that. Move that to the side. able to get a call back. So publisher website, we can submit manuscripts for review and potential publishing. So /upload has the function for submitting, can add custom book cover using file or URL. SSRF here. So do HTTP images. We'll start that server again. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, we'll bring back so we'll do that. We'll open this in the image editor. Put it here so you can see it. Oh, come on. There we go. And so we have SSRF here, which I will copy here. And of course, this is fine. This is absolutely fine. So what we can do is, this is most probably running in PHP. It just feels that way. That is not what I wanted. It just feels like a PHP application. So we haven't got any callbacks from our XSS, which makes me think that we're not doing an XSS thing. All right, so what can we do? Let me just have a look. I have notes on SSRF. Server-side attacks, SSRF. We could potentially submit, like for file, Etsy password. So if we got, where is it? This request. So it does that, and that hits us. Could we potentially do like a, let's just try this. Etsy password. Okay, so that uses the unsplashed photo. The unsplashed photo comes up when it doesn't work. Unless we get it to, like, unless we just abuse the file upload and execute a shell there. So we could do that with like test.php. Do that. Echo. Hi. Okay, so it sent a request the server couldn't understand. Alright, so let's go back and see if we can get one of our upload covers that is just the data. Here we go. Alright. So we'll send this. So that works. So instead of doing image, how does it think of this? So that's fine. If we replaced all of this, so kept that, PHP, so that worked. What if we get rid of this? That works. What's the does anyone know what the PHP content type header? Because I want to make sure that it actually understands that it's what type of file it is. Maybe if I just do text and plain. Text/plain. Okay, so that worked. We'll duplicate that. We will do that. Okay, so what was the other step that it had to take? So you upload cover, then it gets so does that mean I need to let me just see that. No, that's not the hey my belt. Alright, let's just try raw dog in this thing. So clear vim shell.php. Alright, so what I'll do is I will open up Rev Shells 9001 Linux, and we want PHP. Sure. No. Bash. So what I'll do is I'll copy that in there. So what we'll need to do is just use command at the end of our thing. Let's see if that works. So we will browse, we'll get this, we'll open that, preview, and then open image in new tab. Okay, so that downloads the image, which is not particularly helpful. CMD equals ID. Yeah, that's not particularly helpful. So, in that case, is there a way for us to get something rendered here? Alright, so basically, and I'm going to recap this now and probably finish the stream here, mainly because there's not really much time and I think this is going to take a little bit more workshopping. Basically, we have a couple of things. This is a Hack the Box machine. It's called Editorial. It's a web app, and we're just looking at the application. We have a Publishing with Us feature. This is the book information page. What we can do here is submit a book for review. Part of that process is we can upload an image to this little box that gets reflected here. There's two ways. We can upload the file straight, or we can use a URL. So if we use a URL, then the server will make a request on our behalf, meaning that we have server-side request forgery here, and then it will upload whatever file it finds at that address and then show it here. The rest of this, like I tried cross-site scripting payloads in these, but they didn't return any callbacks to my machine. So what I'm trying now is to see what kind of vulnerability exists in this upload feature. What we just found was that we can't upload something and get it to just execute PHP code. It allows us basically to download the file. So I'm pretty sure it's cleaned it up. Must have cleaned it up already. Let me just have a look. No. I think it's gone now. Anyways, but yeah, that's kind of where we're at with this one. I think next time I come, there'll be a bit more investigation into this feature, because we have two things here going on. And I think it's kind of interesting the way that they play off each other. So here we tried to do a file Etsy password to see if we could get the Etsy password file off the server back to us, but that didn't work. So I mean, we could do a 127 and see if that returns anything. And because it's an unsplashed photo, it means it's not there. we could do like an admin page. It kind of hangs, which is a bit weird. Hi Amir, thanks for joining us. I do wonder if there is like some sort of command injection, because it might be using like curl on the back end. So I mean, like we could just do like a simple ping to, and then we go 10, 10, 14.40, something like that. And we do sudo TCP dump, and we'll listen for ICMP traffic. Hang on, let's try that again. Dash B. So that didn't do anything. Try that again. Right now I'm using Kaido. That's the platform that you see here on the screen, which is kind of like a Burp Suite alternative. Yeah. Well, I think at the moment, I don't think there may not be a command injection thing going on here. Should be able to get some pings. I'm using TCP dump because it's kind of easier and less messy, and I can specify just ICMP traffic here, which makes it a little bit easier because I wanted to see if I've got command injection in this parameter here, which I don't think we do. Yeah, so I think we're probably going to leave it at there, and then pick it up next Saturday and see if we can go any further than that. So let me just take a final screenshot. So we're using this request. Let's see, need to look into this request and parameter. Because this is an easy box, I have a feeling that this is like going to be a straightforward kind of SSRF thing, but I'm not 100% sure, and I don't think I'll have time tonight to look into it. But yeah, that's kind of it from me. Thanks guys for joining. I apologize for the late start and the jump around. Thank you for coming and joining me. Next time we're going to go straight into this box because I want to smash it out. So I think that would be really fun. Thank you for joining, and I will see you in next stream. Yeah. Love you guys. Thanks for joining.